Anyways, and then we stayed up because we have the retro gaming stick now, and so we stayed up and we played Mario Kart last night, and then Karina played Super Mario 3 for a little bit. So we had some fun playing that stuff last night. But yeah,
I said, excuse me?
We were playing with our little plumbers, man.
Whoa.
Keeping your pants.
Mario and Luigi, guys. Come on, get your head out of the gut.
Yeah, Mario and Luigi. Well, it is Saturday. Everybody's listening. Welcome back. This is Fatherhood Unscripted. I'm Alec. This is DJ. You know, there's times where we really don't know what we're going to talk about on the podcast, and we decided today we're going to talk about FAFO parenting. It is on the rise right now. I saw it on the TV the other day on the news. This guy talking about it and just asking if it's right and if it's a thing. I was like, I was watching it. It was kind of funny because I was like, this is not a new thing. Like, this is how I was raised. I was spanked. You know, I was yelled at. If I messed up, I had to figure out the consequences of my own actions, you know. And at some point in the last 34 years, it's transitioned to let's hold our kids' hand through everything, which I do the same thing. So I'm not blaming any parents for doing it. But it has turned into that gentle parenting / helicopter parenting. And I do think it could be why a lot of people nowadays are scared of a lot of things. A lot of people nowadays don't want to do a lot of things. And then we are seeing a lot of people not wanting to, or not finishing, I guess. So maybe it's all linked, who knows, but we're going to talk about FAFO parenting. If you don't know what it means, it meant something else when we were younger. we don't
No, I'm just kidding.
It means beep and find out. No, it means beep around and find out. Yeah. And now it means
beep, beep.
Beep,
Whoa,
beep.
I didn't know around was a bad word.
Now it means supposedly figure out and find out, which is stupid. Just use the word. We're adults, right? I mean, as I'm sitting here just not talking about it.
Man.
Yeah. And so what it is, it's allowing kids to learn from natural consequences instead of constant parental invention. So it's essentially just when you feel like, oh, my kid's going to fall off that thing, or my kid's going to mess this up royally, you're having that thought. But because you're having that thought, you're acting on it even though it hasn't happened. Let it happen. Because what's going to happen is your kid's going to learn from that mistake, and they're not going to do it again. It's like when our kids walk in the kitchen, the stove's on, and you're like, oh, that's hot. That's hot. Instead of fencing off the kitchen and not even letting them in the kitchen to prevent something, let them touch the stove, because they're not going to do it again. Right? What are your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah. Consequences. They, I think too, just speaking about consequences in general, like we often say, well, if you don't do this, we're not going to do this. And how many times as a parent you say that, but then in reality, you're going to do it anyways. So you don't let the natural consequences happen. So that's one area where this applies, because you're not letting the natural consequences happen. You're protecting them. And I get it, because as a loving parent, that's part of our job, right? Is to protect and to care for them. But another like big responsibility is to teach our kids how to navigate through consequences instead of always shielding them from the consequences. And just like Alex said too, I mean, my son, we told him that the iron that we iron clothes with, hey, that's hot. Well, he looked at it, had an intrusive thought. We've all been there, had an intrusive thought. You act on that intrusive thought. You're like, gosh, dang, I should not have done that. Well, that's the exact moment he had. His intrusive thought said, I wonder what would happen if I touched this iron. And he touched it, and it burnt the crap out of his finger. Now, we could have, oh, buddy, no, don't touch that. But like, it was just like in a split second. One, we never want to put our kid in danger. So that's another thing, is like, if it's like, really high up on a playground, obviously let them stop before falling, if it's like super tall and that's gonna be disastrous for them. That could end up in a severe injury. But if it's like, you know, they're on the bed and they're gonna fall off the bed, like you warn them, say, hey, if you keep doing this, you're gonna fall. And then if they do it again, that's the consequence, right? So that was the consequence. He touched it, and he hasn't touched an iron since. He knows, and that's because he is aware. And if you definitely protect your kids from consequences, they will never be aware of what they are. And so when you grow up, you do things, and you're wondering, well, why is there this consequence to this? Why is and you don't know how to navigate the emotional side and physical side of consequences.
Mhm.
That's something that you can teach your kids in those moments. So, yes, to Alex's point, I am on board with not being a helicopter parent. I will say I have a lot of anxious thoughts and like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to get hurt. Like Alex said, you have those. It's just like weigh the thing. If it's something they can severely get hurt with, then stop it. If it's like if they're running around with scissors, you're not going to let them run around and fall and stab their eye. That's just
Right.
not that. That's bad parenting. That is not what we're saying. If like you know they're fighting on the couch, and I tell them if they stand up and jump and fight that they could fall off the couch, and they fall off the couch anyways, like that's letting that happen.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Well, it's about like it's not about the danger. Well, no. Yeah, it isn't about danger per se. Like we're not obviously letting our kids, like DJ said, not letting them be in stupid, dangerous situations. It's about like controlling the lessons in a way. Like with my son and daughter, they wrestle, like you were talking about. My daughter knows that my son is stronger than her, and it always ends up with her crying. And I tell her every time, hey, babe, if you're going to fight with your brother, I need you not to come whining or crying to me because you know you're probably going to get hurt. And that happens every time. So it's like that. It's little things where, because when they get older, okay, let's put it this way. You have to, it's like riding a bike. Okay. At some point, you got to take the training wheels off. Because if you let your kids go through life, their whole lives with the training wheels on, when they become an adult and move out of your house, they're going to have no idea because the training wheels are going to fall off. And they're going to have no idea what to do in life. Something bad is going to happen. They're not going to handle it. They're going to come back to running to mom and dad, which is fine. But at some point, your parents, your kids are going to have to handle life by themselves. And so what we have to do as parents is find that balancing between letting them figure it out and then also being there to help them figuring out emotionally, because it is a big thing to help your kids figure out their emotions. So as a parent, that's our big job, is to figure out the balance between how much do I let them get hurt or have the consequence of their actions versus obviously you need to step in at some point for some things. And I think that's what it was about, because I'm going to say it straight out. A lot of parents nowadays are super lazy, and I have been there. I've been at that parent where I'm like, yeah, just give me a second. Or, you're going to get spanked, or you're going to be in big trouble if you keep doing that thing. And then they keep doing the thing and like, okay. I think that's the go-to nowadays. And maybe it is a good thing that, we show our kids like, hey, dad or mom, they said, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble if they say that. Because then it grounds you too, and it backs up my parents stuck to what they said. Because that's the last thing you want is your kids going out and be like, oh, my dad always said he's going to do stuff, but he never did it because, he just always threatened me, but I knew I could get away with whatever I wanted. No, there needs to be consequences for their actions. And that goes for touching the iron. They're going to find out it's hot. That goes for, oh, you hit your sister out of anger? Okay, you're going to get spanked. Like the kids need to learn a give and a take, a yin and yang. It's like it's just the natural order of things versus nowadays where it's like, oh, it's okay, baby. You're fine. Don't do it again. It's okay. Like, you know. I mean, that's like us. I was spanked as a kid, and I'm not out there beating up people. Like I think a lot of people I saw this thing the other day, and it was two parents. They're talking about how, spanking a child is like, if you went up to another adult and you spanked them, what would happen? Like, well, you're going to get beat up or something. Like, you're spanking. You're not teaching another adult a lesson. And I think if you're thinking of spanking as something you do out of anger to your kids, that's wrong. That's not something you should be doing. And I'm not saying I'm spanking my kids every day. Like, I've probably spanked my kids 3 or 4 times their whole lives. It's a thing that you use um, really bad situations in my book. And we'll probably get a lot of flack for talking about how we spank our kids and all this stuff. But I think it is something that does help sometimes, because it makes them realize, like, okay, I don't want that to happen again, because I didn't want it to happen again. I didn't want to be spanked. But I will give it to my parents that I did need it sometimes, because there was times where I was a little poop head. That's my thought on that portion of today's podcast.
Yeah, I really like consequences and backing up what you say. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I want to caution parents, because I've been there and I've done this very mistake. And so listen up, because this is a great tip that will your kids will listen a lot better. I almost just dumped my coffee. The consequence needs to match the action. Like, if they don't, I'm trying to think of a good example. I just know a good example of what we do. So for them, they love to read, they love to do bedtime stuff just like that. But let's say they're not brushing their teeth, they're not getting ready for bed. That's another thing. We give them the responsibility, we give them a task, and it's up to them to complete it. And if they don't complete it, well, the consequence is now we're spending more time doing this task and we don't have time to read.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing to think about. Like, what is a natural consequence to their actions versus something way off the rails? Like this. If you say the kid's not getting ready to head out the door, right? Kids will be kids, and they get into their mode where they don't want to do anything. They just want to play and not get ready to go. Well, if you say, well, if you don't get ready to go, I'm just going to leave you here by yourself. Are you really going to leave a 3-year-old by themselves? Is that really the natural consequence that's going to come of this? I don't think so. What you should say is, hey, look, we were going to go to the park. If you do not get ready in the next 5 minutes, we will not have time to go to the park.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we'll have time for is maybe the store. And then we have to come home.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to take you guys to the park beforehand. See, that's a natural consequence. It cuts into time. We won't have enough time for the activity that you want to do. So just make that your thing. And then talking about just creating independent kids, because I feel like there's a lot of codependent kids, and I was one of them. My parents, they kind of did my mom. So here's the deal with my parents. My dad worked. There was one time he was working 7/10s. Like, he just wasn't home. He provided for the family. My mom, God bless her heart, she got sick. I feel like most of my life she was pretty much sick.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's like a good 5 years where it wasn't the case, but for the most part, she wasn't present because she was dealing with her own stuff. I don't blame her. I'm just saying that both my parents weren't all that present. They weren't, and then when they had the energy, it wasn't a ton of it. So what did they do? They just, gave me what I wanted, and there was no consequences to really my actions. And like, and I'm not saying I was a bad kid and I went wild.
You're a bad
Um,
influence.
but I just I didn't like. It was almost like I was coddled.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting into adulthood, I didn't do anything for myself. I didn't know how to, like, nobody taught me how to cook. Nobody taught me how to pay bills. Nobody taught me, like, all the life skills that you need. I was without. And it did a huge disservice to me. And I'm still having to learn things to this day, all because in my childhood I wasn't taught. And so we need to create independent kids. And something that Jasmine and I have done really well, and I give her a lot of the credit, is our kids in the morning, it's their responsibility to get ready. And I will tell you, all three of them get themselves dressed. And they've been doing this for a couple years. So my twins are 3. So since a year and a half, 2 years where they could walk and get their stuff on themselves, they've been doing it. Nate's about the same time, 2 years old on. He's 5 now. He's been doing it himself.
Mm-hmm.
So they know how to get themselves ready. We also don't jump in right away when they have a question or they're trying to solve a problem. We let them think. Okay, well, what's the next action? Well, what do you need to do? What do you need to find? The thing my wife has done is if Nate is like frantically looking for a shoe, well, you got to find it. I'm not going to find it for you. So, where did you have it last? And it just gets them to think about their actions. Okay, if I don't want this to happen again, I got to put my shoes where I can find them, not just take them off wherever. So again, back to the consequences and letting them face those consequences. It all comes full circle.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're overbearing and helicoptering is the other term, then they'll never learn. They'll get to adulthood, they'll be in my shoes and not know how to do anything. Nothing that pertains to life. I might as well still have been attached to the umbilical cord. Lord have mercy, I didn't know how to do anything. It is terrible. And I, in the moment as a kid, I was grateful for it. Why? Because, I was allowed to do whatever and there was no
Mm-hmm.
consequences and I didn't get in trouble a whole lot. But then as I became an adult, I was like, shoot, I kind of wish I could go back to my childhood and tell them to parent me better.
Yeah. Well, I think like you're saying, there's parts too that are age appropriate. What's the natural order things? Like if your kid hasn't done their homework, don't like, oh, we got 5 minutes to your homework. Well, if they have 5 minutes for school, no, we're leaving. Like you're gonna have to fess up to your teacher and like deal with what happened. It can be little things like that. I think what you did, a lot of us, I think, had that issue, like you were saying, is where we weren't taught a lot of stuff that we're going to need when we're older. And we're not taught stuff in school. We're not stuff and this might go on a different tangent, but I do think it is good that, my kids see me when I do pay the bills. They see me go online. They see this stuff. They see that mom works, dad works, and what comes out of that. And so showing, come out of little things too, where you show your kids that when we do things in life, this is what happens. And this, and like you just said, the natural order of things. And so if you're just giving your kid the iPad when they freak out or giving your kid everything they want, like Jesus said, he's going to have kids who they're older, like having no idea what they're going to do. Like I've seen that with my son, which unfortunately it is my fault, where he'll go, hey, Micah, go get this or go do this. And he'll instantly, like, not even like a breath. Can you help me do it? Can Mia help me do it? Like, no, dude, like you are going to be 10 years old. Figure it out. So that's, fail on my end because there was a portion where I was a really crappy dad. And, now that I am a pretty much full-time dad, you see things that you messed up on when they were younger. And if that's, you're in the same boat, listen, it's never too late. Just help them now. Just do what you can now. Fix mistakes. And that is very hard for parents too, because sometimes we were raised like that. And so that's the whole point of this podcast, is to change the way we were parented and fix it, because our kids deserve better and our kids deserve the parents that we feel like sometimes we didn't have. So I do have a couple questions just to end the podcast today, since we're rolling in on a little bit. For anybody listening, what are some times you felt that you coddled your kids and you didn't let them experience the consequences for their actions? Or like, what are some times maybe you felt that as a kid? And do you think that the fuck around and find out parenting style is good or bad? Let's start stuff in the chat and let us know what you guys think, what your thoughts are on this, because For me, I think it's a good thing for kids because they need those consequences, because when they get older and they move out of your house, we want to make sure they're the best human that they can be. And having consequences, dealing with our consequences is part of that, being the best human they can be when they grow up and move out. Because a lot of us wouldn't be, well, I'd say a lot of us, I mean, mine and DJ's generation, where we had to figure a lot of stuff out because that's just how our parents were, because that age group, they definitely were about that F around and find out lifestyle. And it's just been lost somewhere. So I'm on board with it. I think there are extremists who completely just beat their children if something happens, which I am not on board with. But I'm also not on board with, I'm going to catch my kid before anything happens or I'm going to bubble wrap my kid. That's just not good. Yeti, I want to end it up
Yeah,
for it with a nice little bow.
nice little bow. There's a couple things that, looking at all this, real quick, signs you might be a helicopter parent. Here we go. You feel anxious when your child isn't in your sight.
Mm-hmm.
You step in to fix mistakes immediately. You track or micromanage every detail of their day. You feel more invested in their success than they do. If this is you, I got a couple tips for you. Some healthy alternatives. Be a coach, not a controller. Offer tools, encouragement, and boundaries. Let them fail safely. Basically, what we've talked about this entire time, but small mistakes now teach big lessons later. Foster independence. Again, another thing that we touched on. Gradually give them more responsibility and focus on long term character over short term wins. Skills like patience, empathy, and grit last longer than a perfect grade. So, on that note, just like Alex said, he asked a few questions. If you feel like this is you, if you feel like you have a tip for somebody else who might be in this boat and you were in this boat a few years ago, but you've changed things, obviously leave a comment down below. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a review. Actually, Alec did bring something up. I want to say we're so excited whenever
Mm-hmm.
we get these wins. And the the search that people do, parenting podcast for a dad. Well, if you search that, we are currently number 1 on Apple Podcasts. And this is because you guys are listening to us, you guys are plugging in. We do this for you. We
Mm-hmm.
also, selfishly do this for ourselves too, because we learn a lot by
Yeah, we
having
do.
guests on, and we basically get that one-on-one time with them. They agreed to be on our podcast. But yes, we can ask them anything we want.
Mm-hmm.
So we ask them things that are going on in our lives secretly. And we're gonna throw it in there. Oh, it's for our audience, of course. No, really, it is for you guys, and we're excited to keep the momentum. I think we're in the top 10 for Spotify. Top 10 for Spotify, number 1 for Apple Podcasts in the category of parenting podcast for a dad. Yeah. So, guys, if you are already subscribed to this, if you know somebody, because you probably do,
Mm-hmm.
send it over to them so they can start diving into this stuff if it's helped you at any point in this long journey of episodes that we have. And yeah, guys, we will definitely see you on the next one. All right.
All right.
Peace.
Good.